Well, hello, everybody. My name is Peter Greenlaw, and I'm here to give you some incredible information today about something that could absolutely change the entire world. I have a famous quote in one of my books I wrote. Sometimes in history, something so extraordinary happens that it changes the world. I really believe that that moment is now. Before I begin, I want to let you know this is for educational purposes only. It's not intended to treat, diagnose, make any medical proclamations whatsoever. Let me just start with one of the studies. So in the obesity journal, what they did is they compared the heart-healthy diet called the Mediterranean diet, which has been voted the #1 diet 8 years in a row, compared to system that you all use, right? Well, in the Mediterranean diet, it took people 8 months to lose 10.2 pounds, and up to 40% of what they lost was lean muscle mass. In the study, now keep in mind, it's published. It's in the public domain. We're not making claims when we stick to the medical studies. In the study, in a month, men and women lost 16 pounds, lost no water weight, and gained 6 to 9% lean muscle. That was just the tip of the iceberg. I have some of the other statistics just to make sure I wanted to get them right for all of you. In not just this study, but the other studies. This is what you call irrefutable medical proof. But let's look at some of the other things just in this obesity journal that are so incredible. So in a month's time, people lost 16 pounds, which on the Mediterranean diet, they lost 10.2 pounds in 8 months. You have to understand that on these diets, and I'll get into that later, what happens is, yes, people lose weight initially, but I'm going to blow up the whole myth around calories in, calories out, all that, and I have the medical proof to back it up. But look at some of the other things. So fat went down 11%, blood sugar went down 6.2%, insulin, this is unheard of. Insulin went down 41% in a month. Now, the people in the studies were monitored by their doctors. They found that many of these people had significant, with their doctor's help, decreases in the amount of medication they had. It's right here in the study. LDL went down 13%. Triglycerides went down 24%. Hunger, I found this fascinating, but now I understand it, went down 41%. Desire to eat down 40%. And here was the big one. The underlying cause of every disease out there, inflammation, for the first time ever, went down 25%. For some of the medical people that may be watching this, what they measure is something called interleukin-1 and C-reactive protein. It went down 25% in a month. You all have to understand what you're putting people on is not a diet. This is that moment in time that's going to change the world. And if you can learn how to leverage this, it's even more important. So here's a huge study in the Journal of the American Medical Association, comparison of weight loss among named diet programs in overweight and obese adults. What they did in this study, they looked at, I'm going to read right from it. They looked at 48 unique randomized trials, 7,286 individuals. These diets that they compared from the least amount lost to the most amount of weight lost in a year was 10 ounces. Wow, does that sound exciting to you? Also, the average weight loss in a year was 16 pounds. Wait a minute. Oh, they lost 16 pounds in a month on this protocol. What? Would you rather take a year to lose 16 pounds, everyone, or do you think you'd rather do it in a month? Why do you think people overeat? They're not hungry for calories. It's the most ridiculous thing on the planet. I'm going to tell you the definition of calorie. It's the amount of heat it takes to raise a gram of water 1 degree Celsius. That's it. They're telling you the way to lose weight is calories in, calories out. The only thing that matters to our body is nutrition that the cells can use to make us healthy. Do you wonder why in 1964 we had about 15% of the American population overweight and obese? In 2024, we're at 80% overweight, 50% obese, 50% pre-diabetic. Right now, I just want to contrast the difference between these major studies that are really the analysis of all diets compared to this protocol. You know, there's a lot of around the keto diet. You've heard low carbohydrates, right? Well, as a researcher, I always look at this stuff and go, okay, where's the proof? So this is a big study in nutrients, the effects of 8-week prescribed low carbohydrate diets. I'm quoting directly from the study. Exposure to low carb diets is associated with significant reductions in lean muscle mass and increased osteoporosis risk in obese individuals. Is that something you want to do? Does that sound great? You have to understand diets are dead. So John Anderson's whole thing was, how can we find sources of food that have huge amounts of nutrition, but not huge amounts of quantity? He physically went to Bangladesh and to Tibet and to South America and New Zealand to seek out these food groups that had huge amounts of nutrition, but not huge amounts of quantity. Essentially, what he pioneered was the concept how much of the nutrient is actually in whatever you're taking, and then how does it get delivered into our cells. I don't want to get too nerdy on all of you, but just think about that. Here's a great example. If today you could go to your gas station and there were only 2 gas pumps, pump number 1 says this gallon will take you 20 miles. This second pump, that sign says this gallon will take you 100 miles. That was his philosophy. And my gosh, was he right. I mean, this is back in 2002, 2003, when he created isogenics in his laboratory from scratch because they had some severe health challenges. That's how it started. The way that I met John Anderson, I had very, very severe health challenges 23 years ago. Well, I was 40 pounds overweight and did everything traditionally for 8 weeks and go back, and there was very little change. And I ran into my friend and he said, you need to try this. He was called it isogen. He couldn't pronounce it, nor could I. It didn't matter. I said, heck, I'll eat road tar if it won't kill me. In about 2 months, I went back for a follow-up with my doctor, and he was shocked at the improvement. Not only did I lose 40 pounds in 7 weeks, but kept it off for 23 years. And I went to dinner. I shared my story. I didn't know who he was at the time, but the chemist, his name was John Anderson, said, I want to talk to you after dinner. He pulled me aside and he said, look, I know I've invented something that's going to change the world. And he said, I need someone like you to tell the world about it. As it turned out in the long run, he was totally right. I really believe we have an obligation to the world to educate them, not to sell them, not to convince them. So in conclusion, why does this work? Because it's a system that's based on huge amounts of nutrition in small quantities of food in combination with regular food, but in very specific ways. How you took it, when you take it, how much you take it, when you take it. And that's my goal. And I hope you will be able to utilize this to help people that don't know how to help themselves.